Hey fellow backyard boyers, Nick here. I've received lots of requests to make some of the arrows from Skyrim. So today I'm going to start by making my version of the iron arrow. Now, this is one of my favorite arrows in game because it's the most practical. Now the in-game arrow has a very large point, and I scaled that down to the size of a typical broadhead. I also lengthened the fletchings, and the game arrows are really short, and this one is lengthened out to fit my 28-inch draw. So here it is. Let's get started. I begin by drawing the shape of the arrowhead onto a scrap piece of mild steel to simulate using soft iron. The arrowhead is 2.5 inches long by 1.5 inches wide and 1/16 of an inch thick. Now if you want to build a tougher version capable of taking more abuse and holding a better edge, you could start with spring or high carbon steel like this saw blade. Now that the design is laid out, I use a drill to rough out the 2 mounting holes and then cut the arrowhead free with a pair of tin snips. Next, I lightly flatten the blank with a hammer and use files to true up the profile and sharpen up the edges. Then I take it back to the anvil to give the arrowhead a rough, hammered look, and then finish it by heating it up to red hot with my torch and quenching it in oil. This gives a nice oxide finish that looks good and helps keep the point from rusting. Now that the arrowhead is finished, it's time to work on the arrow shaft. I'm using a 5/16 inch poplar dowel cut to 30 inches long. Now it's important to make sure that you only use dowels with straight grain and as few growth ring violations or runoff as possible. I spine test all the dowels I use, and while there's a big range, 5/16 usually gets you anywhere from 25 to 50 pounds, while 3/8 goes from about 40 to 70 pounds. Next, I use a saw to cut a 1/16 inch wide slot 5/8 inch deep into the end of the dowel, and I make sure that this is perpendicular to the growth rings. Using a tile saw or a 1/8 inch round file, I cut a 1/4 inch deep slot into the back to form the knock. This is also perpendicular to the growth rings. I sand the arrow smooth and round off all sharp edges before staining the arrow shaft with brown shoe polish or leather dye. I seal the arrow shaft with de-waxed shellac and let it dry. For the fletchings, I cut full-length turkey feathers down to 4.5 inches long and use fletching tape or flexible superglue to apply the first feather onto the arrow. It's important that when the arrow is on the bow, any runoff angles downward and back to prevent injury if the arrow breaks. Once all 3 feathers are glued on, I use scissors to trim them down. I gently apply heat to the edges of the feathers to give them a worn and ragged look. Next, the point is glued in place with hot melt. While the glue is still soft, I adjust the point so it spins true. I then wrap the point with 35-pound test polyester thread, crisscrossing over the base of the point and wrapping about 2 inches of the arrow shaft. I finish the arrow by wrapping the knock end with thread, and I apply a thin layer of superglue to all the wraps to seal them. Here's the arrow all finished up. I built this one for a 50-pound bow. I also built another one with a 3/8 inch dowel for a 75-pound bow. I hope you enjoyed building this with me today, and if you have any suggestions for other videos and other builds you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed watching this video, you can check out my channel for other projects like this. And I've also written several books on different topics, including arrow making, and you can check out the links to those in the description. So as always, thanks for watching, be safe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.